Okay, so we are recording. Shannon Fable, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I am good. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a good day in the world today, isn't it? We were just saying.
It is such a great day. I feel like today is a brand new start. It's a new year.
Absolutely.
Finally.
It actually is a beautiful sunny day here in Auckland where I am. So I walked out and saw the sun shining across the Sky Tower in the Auckland Harbour. Tell me about it where you are.
Gosh, yes, I'm in Boulder in the US. So it's a mountain town. And let's see, it is 47 Fahrenheit today. So not too terribly cold, but a little overcast. But we can still get outside and I see the mountains, and that's all I need. Whether it's gray or sunny, it's still a beautiful sight.
Perfect. And so I wanted to get you on the podcast today because you have had a particular focus on 2021, which I think is really, really useful for all of our listeners to hear about. And I thought we would just jump straight in. So why don't you introduce your focus for 2021?
Yeah. So what I've been telling people, or I've never really talked to anyone about, each year I choose a word. And I know that's not new. A lot of people do that, but I've had the year of no, I've had the year of yes, I've had the year of enough. And this year it's the year of and. So I am all about preaching that the word and can lead to so many things. You know, it stands for abundance. It stands for opportunity. It stands for collaboration. And more than anything, and I was just having a conversation with another colleague of mine. I was like, yay, you're on the same page. There's room for all of us. The world doesn't have to be or. And for me personally, in the fitness industry, it's been the blessing and the curse of COVID, right? Like so many new opportunities have come up. And I think in the first couple of months, that was what the adrenaline that kept most of us running, is helping people look at those opportunities and take advantage. And then all of a sudden, the scarcity mindset set in.
Yeah.
Where, well, that person's bigger, or this organization is bigger. And if they're doing it, how are we possibly going to make it? And, especially in the US, it became just lots of bifurcated choices. Are you for big business or small business? Are you for the local company or the corporate conglomerate? Are you a Republican or are you a Democrat? And it just kept speaking to me that, and I'm a sociologist by trade, so it probably doesn't come as any surprise if you know about sociology, but I just always look for the fuzzy middle, because I just don't think that there are that many things that are black and white, right? So specifically in the fitness industry, I don't think a fitness consumer or a consumer looking for fitness experiences is going to go, Peloton's my thing, and that is not my thing. Right. Or that gym is my thing, or that's not my thing.
That's really interesting.
I don't know. We need so many things.
I have never heard it described by that, but I'm a political scientist by studying.
Love it.
And so I always look at the politics side of it. And obviously politics is so polarized right now. You have America, which is obviously a two-party system. It's primarily a two-party system in the UK as well. I'm now in New Zealand, where we have a different system of government, and third parties can get a look in. And you see how it does actually change the narrative and the discourse. But I'd never really thought about how that polarization at the very top level of affiliation and, culture wars and politics filters down into you have to be brand A or brand B. You have to be for big box gyms or for studios. You have to be a freestyle person, or you follow a pre-choreographed format. It's just, it does come down to this tribalism that is just inherently unhelpful for people that are trying to get ahead and also sitting in the middle of choices.
Could not agree more. I'll start with the political thing. I sat on the board for the American Council on Exercise for 7 years, and I was so honored to meet a former congressman in the US. And he lost a seat in Congress because of gerrymandering. We won't go into all that, but he eventually wrote a book called Dead Center, because he believes that the polarization in politics is really just for show. It's the marketing.
Yes. Yeah,
right? Because you have to be for something and you have to double down on something.
Yep.
And because we keep hearing these messages that are just, the volume is so turned up at the fringes.
Yep.
We don't realize that most people fall somewhere in the middle of all of it. But that's not a sexy message.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's happening to the fitness industry right now, right? You've got a lot of people that are very big, that have lots of money, that have big production budgets, and you've got the little individual fitness pros that are doing their thing.
Mm.
So two things happen. You see all the money that's being spent and all the sound waves going to these big things that are happening, and it's just crushing people's soul.
Yeah.
And then you combine it with fitness professionals have always had somewhat of a sense of a scarcity mindset, or I call it the poor trainer mentality.
Just to jump in, can you just
Mm-hmm.
explain a scarcity mindset for anyone that's listening to this and hasn't come across the term before?
Yeah. I mean, to me, the easiest way to put it is a scarcity mindset believes there are only a limited amount of resources.
Yeah.
And it will be very challenging for you to get your piece because there's too many people vying for it.
Right.
Where when you come from a place of abundance, it's like, there are people in this world I was meant to serve. And there are things that I do that may not be unique, but the combination of how I do it, who I do it, and why I do it is going to resonate with a group of people. It may be a small group, it may be a large group, but it will resonate, and I can monetize that and scale that.
Right.
Yeah, I hope that helps. So scarcity, just thinking there's not enough.
Yeah, for sure. And it's something that we've talked about on this podcast a lot, in that with all these new players, and I'm sure we're going to get into sort of the digital and the big companies that have come in and how that impacts individual instructors. But at the end of the day, like the scarcity mindset is essentially looking at the total world's population and the people that already do fitness and thinking that you all have to compete for that, and just forgetting about that whole section of the pie, whether it's 80%, whether it's 70%, but it's that whole section that isn't currently doing fitness that would do it and could do it if you helped motivate and enable them and get them into it.
Yeah. And it's so interesting to me. I've just never been that person that thinks there's not enough to go around. I mean, I'm competitive, don't get me wrong. And I'm not suggesting that there isn't a need to be a little bit competitive to up your game and for all of us to try to do better and be more. But if you can figure out who you were meant to serve, like, you do have to get really clear about your target market. I think that's part of the issue we have, which we can talk about. You have to know what the number one result is that you provide, right? And other people may provide that same thing. They might even provide it to the same target market, but you have a very unique why you got into it, why you do it, what motivates you, what drives you. And that becomes your brand. And branding is not your Pantone color and your logo. The number of conversations I get into with people like, well, I can't do my website because I don't know what my Pantone color is, and I don't have a professional logo, A or B. I'm like, nobody cares. You have to be able to articulate your who, what, and your why. And if you know that like I said, that unique combination and how you get that message out into the world will sit on people. And I love what you said. In the US, we talk about the 85% all the time. Scarcity mindset is thinking that exactly what you said, the people that are already doing fitness are your target market. They may or may not be, right? But there are so many people that need to get moving. We just have to figure out how to connect them. You just have to be really clear with who you're trying to connect. There are more than enough. Every single person needs, that's the coolest thing about being a fitness professional. Everyone needs some of what you've got. Yeah. You've just got to figure out how to get to them and make them understand it in their terms. So I just think there's more opportunity for fitness than ever. If we could just get out of our own way.
I agree. And I think we'll delve more into this in terms of the end and some of the what, how, and the why that you talked about. But I think that that is it's so clearly seen in the introduction of a lot of big players to the fitness industry. And obviously listeners to this show are group fitness professionals. They're probably catering to a different market. But if you look at how Peloton advertises, how Les Mills On Demand advertises, how Apple Fitness are advertising, while they all have their own unique kind of their unique brand and unique culture, and obviously Apple Fitness Plus is doing a great job of being super diverse, they're all still fit people that are encouraging fit people. And and if you just look at who they are targeting with all of their marketing capital, their marketing dollars, their Facebook advertising, their social media advertising, and just think, well, they're clearly not targeting that person on the couch that much. They may be encouraging them in from a really cheap deal or the fact that they get eyeballs, but they're not catering their content to someone that needs that extra person-to-person motivation. And they're never going to be able to do it. And this is something I've talked about numerous times, is that where they're operating at scale, they have to be for everybody. Therefore, they can't really niche down as much as an individual instructor can. they can't provide that community support or that direct conversation, or, like there was a Facebook meme that went around to basically every instructor in the world this week, right? And it was, instead of supporting these big brands, why don't you support your local instructor who does your song choice, knows your name, knows when your children were graduating, etc. And I think that this is a really great segue into end, because we don't need to think of it as a big competition, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. So that post is killing me for so many reasons.
Tell me about it, because
I mean,
I get it, right? Like I understand it and I agree with it, but I understand what you're saying. Why don't you kind of elaborate on that?
yeah. I mean no disrespect, because I hear you. I know this has been such a hard year, and I blame it on the lack of support that we provided to fitness professionals to advocate for themselves, put themselves at the center of their fitness business, and build their own scalable businesses.
Right.
So let's put that aside. I get where we're all coming from. But to your point, the first thing that bothers me about it is you're basically, fitness is already tough for a lot of people. Can we all agree? Like not everyone sees exercise as a gift like you and I do. They see it as a chore. Therefore, it's something to be done. It's something on a list, and things get in the way. So it's not like a lot of people are self-motivated to do it, even though you may think they are, because you surround yourself with a lot of people that are. So hold on to that thought. If you've got that thought, and then all of a sudden you're on Facebook, you are chastising people that are making a choice to move and telling them the choice they made is incorrect.
Right.
You really are in this industry to get people moving and empower people to choose movement over sitting still. You just did the exact opposite. I mean, I am for any kind of movement. And I used to say that, most of my career was spent riding a bike that didn't go anywhere, working for Schwinn for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
And people would get so, instructors would get so irritated about, where I live in Colorado, it's a huge cycling mecca.
Yes.
So come summer, nobody is indoors. And instructors would get so mad. And I had the same irritation level. I'm like, why are you mad at them? Think about the part that you played in empowering them to go outside and do it. So I'll get off that soapbox. That's my first.
No, I like that soapbox though, right? Like, because I have had a similar.
It frustrates me so much.
Like understanding that your class gets smaller in summer and your Saturday morning class might not be as big as it was in winter, but that's because people are out enjoying their lives, and a lot of those people will be out doing things with their kids, with their grandkids in the park, playing sport that you have enabled them to do through the work that you've put in together with them, motivating them to work out during the winter months.
Yeah. I mean, let's put and on that. It's like, I hate that my classes are small, and I can see the part I played in making them small, and that makes me feel really good. There's just a different way, because you also, I'm going through this great program right now called The Shift, and they talk about vibration, and there is a real law of attraction around your vibration. And I think this and conversation changes your vibration. It's like, I can feel that way and I can look for the good in it, or I can feel that way and I can have. And so that's my first irritation with that post. Cause I'm like, you're basically telling a whole bunch of people, it's not the same as chastising people for choosing Starbucks over your local barista. Yeah. Two totally different things, right?
Because they were getting coffee.
Who cares where they get their coffee? They were getting coffee anyway. Yeah. But okay, so that's part one. Part two, the and thing is, you can do both things. Like the democratization of fitness because of digital offerings is real. Where people used to have to pay 20, 30, 40, 50, hundreds of dollars or whatever your currency is to get into it. The barrier to entry from a financial standpoint is so low. Right. How much is Apple? I think it was like $9.95. I mean, you got to have the watch, but it's $9.95. Peloton's $39.95. They can do your thing and their thing.
That's exactly right, right? Like if you apply and to it, it's instead of going, Apple's charging $9.99, how can I compete with that? You can go, Apple's charging $9.99, which is great because that means that someone can do that and come to my live class or my live stream class where I provide something different.
And here's the thing. I am so for leveraging third-party content and making Peloton and Apple work for you. Here's what I mean. And you're alluding to it. You're saying, I'm going to say it in a slightly different way.
Yep.
What I offer to you is not just exercise. If you still think that your class is what you offer to the people that are coming, you are peddling the wrong thing.
Agree.
right? They can get a class anywhere.
That should
But
be a
what you
lesson you
can
learned from
do,
2020, right? Like you like
yeah,
your class
they
has
can get
got
it
taken away.
anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can still teach my class. And here's the beauty of all these other options that are out there. I don't have to try to be everything to everyone, because that's
Mm,
also what I'm witnessing instructors try to do is like, well, how am I going to charge $9.95 if Apple has 10 different formats with 20 different instructors? Now I've got to teach all these formats.
yeah,
You're probably not good at all the formats. So double
exactly. And
down on yours.
neither are any of those instructors, right? That's why they have so many.
Right. So then what I can do that's different than Apple, and I can leverage Apple or Peloton to say, come to me for this.
Mm,
And what I can provide is making sense of all the other options to supplement
yep.
or amplify what you're doing with me. And this is what I say, like the 2021 fitness professionals, personal trainers, group fitness, anyone needs to start studying behavior change and health coaching, because that has always been your differentiator. You just never, you never really knew how to put that in a box, but
Right.
that's what you need to be selling is I can be your Sherpa. I can teach you some of the things and have interactions with you, but I also can help you make sense. Like I train a guy in the UK and I don't make up any workouts for him. I don't
Yep.
have to do that anymore. I say, take this on Peloton, do this outside, and then here's a list of exercises that you already know how to do it. And you know what? Super valuable.
And it's not
Yeah.
Sorry to jump in. I was just thinking that I had never had this realization before, but you're exactly right with behavioral change because, and I'm going to take the example of someone who teaches in a gym, be it say they taught a body pump class in 24-hour fitness or in one of the gyms in the UK, anywhere around the world, and they had a good slot. And they built that slot up because more people came and they were successful as a teacher. And let's say that now they don't have that slot anymore. They're not able to teach it. The gym is closed. It might have shut down. It might be that the class timetable has been reduced. But when you roll back and they thought, I taught a really good class, the reason more people were coming to the class is because you were motivating them to make a behavioral change. You were motivating more people week on week, iteratively, to make a change to their behavior to come and to exercise. And that, as you said, that was what you really did. And I think a lot of people think, oh, 24 has a really good membership sales, or they were doing a sale, or body pump is a great format. I mean, those can all be true, but it wouldn't make your class bigger because there's so many other options. The reason your class got bigger was because you were encouraging people to make a change in their behavior and they were sticking to it. And that's how you built your numbers. And you can apply that regardless of 24 or body pump, as an example.
Right. And we have to redefine community, because I keep hearing that too. Like they're going to come back for the community. Well, being in person is not a community. Everyone just happening to be at the same place at the same time is not community in person or online. You are doing something more than that. Community is rallying around the same cause or the same thought or the same emotion or the same feeling. And, you know, I was one of the first body pump instructors in the US and worked for Les Mills at some point, as did you. And I remember realizing like the beauty of the body pump class in particular, when it came out, it wasn't necessarily, again, it wasn't just that people were showing up or that I was teaching it any differently than you were teaching it. That all came to the table. But the brilliance of that format was your ability to see progress week in and week out, and the predictability of it, so you could hang your hat on the experience every time, right? And
see your weights increase gradually over
never
time.
And always know it's going to go in the same order, and that the lunge track is always going to feel like crap. And thank God this thing is next. And right, you just knew. And shoulders are at the end, but at least there's a cool down coming. Like you knew. And I want instructors to remember that. Like that's the smart programming. Like I'm not going to say an individual instructor's programming is better than Apple or Peloton, but to your point, they have to do it in a way that is not linear or progressive. It is very ad hoc. It's very drop in, drop out, a la carte, right? You can stack it. I mean, like I have such problems. I do Peloton, Apple, and Mirror, like literally every day, but I do like 20 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 5 minutes there. I've got ADD. But what I still need a fitness professional for is to usher me through my experience.
Right.
And that is just a different level of you're selling a different, and if you're not, if you are still just selling your experience, you need to upgrade the product that you're selling. Doesn't mean more bells and whistles, doesn't necessarily mean higher production quality, but you need to update, you need to upgrade your operating system. Like, what are you actually offering that, because no, you can't compete with Peloton and Apple, but you don't have to.
Yeah, I actually said in my first podcast of the year, I described the changes that were going to be coming for any group fitness instructor, particularly those that are back in the gym, is that you're going to have to be a host. You have to welcome people in. You have to make sure that it's clean and hygienic and they feel safe. But I think maybe, like, having talked to you, I realized that host is probably the wrong thing. It's more like a concierge, right? Because you're actually the person that is remembering them. And then when they come back the next time, you are providing an upgraded, more personal experience. Whereas a host, a host could be a one-time thing. You are a concierge taking them through a journey, and when they come back they expect to know where they've been and where they're going.
Right. You have to become their empower in chief. And I've preached about this for a long time, even before COVID. Like, stop at the end of your class just promoting your next class.
Yeah.
Or going online and telling people, oh, sub alert, sorry, I'm not going to be there. But figure out how, like, that drives me absolutely crazy. Like, you can't be the center of the consumer's solar system.
Right. Now more than ever, right?
And that is the transformation. Oh my gosh, no, not at all. Like, patient-centered healthcare. It's the same thing. Like, we have to put the consumer at the center and know that we potentially are one spoke. They're the hub. We may be one spoke.
I actually read an article that,
and if you want,
sorry, we'll get back to this. I'm very sure.
No. It's yeah. So be a spoke, but I want to take it one step further. Be a spoke, but be the person that can connect all the other spokes and make it make sense to the hub. That is the value you bring. So, like, at the end of any class you teach, whether it's in person or live, it's, hey, we just did this great, body pump class. We worked all body parts. We did it in an endurance-based way. We burned tons of calories. I would suggest that when you leave here, you go do XYZ, and maybe tomorrow do this. I don't want to see you back in a body pump class, but maybe I'll see you next week. Right. And give them the options, because gone are the days that folks want the wise woman on the mountaintop telling them what to do. They want someone beside them, just advocating for them and making sense of what they're doing and saying, yep, that's good. Keep going. Another little small step, another little small step. That's going to be the difference this year.
Yeah. And I think that I feel that you've hit the nail on the head there, and that the opportunity for instructors this year is to understand that the hub and spoke is a paradigm of fitness that is changing, because the gym was the place that people went for fitness. And for most people, that was the place, or the yoga studio, or the swimming club, or the running club. Like, people were doing all of these things. Whereas with the democratization of fitness, with things like ClassPass encouraging people to try different things, with digital fitness where they can have 14-day free trials of, you could basically go a full year of doing 14-day trials on different things if you were so inclined. We have to accept that it's now a case of helping people to understand how to put together their fitness journey rather than providing it all for them. And that goes for gyms as well, right? As we know from some of the other work.
Oh my gosh.
Like, everybody just has to get across this new paradigm of fitness.
Yes, 100%. I think about ClassPass and how disruptive that was when it came out, and how angry people were at ClassPass. And it's like, but they were successful not because they brought the price point down. Like, that was everyone's argument, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're driving us into the ground because of this, that, and the other. They're like, no, but they saw what the consumer needed, which is, I want what I want when I want it. And that's it.
Correct.
Orange Theory also saw that.
And right? I don't want to have I don't want to commit to everything being just this. I want to be able to do different stuff.
Yeah. And I think because people really put it in that context of commitment and blamed it on the millennial mindset, yada, yada, yada. Like, again, I look at it as not just a lack of commitment. The lack of commitment is because their needs, their wants, and their schedules change more frequently.
Yes.
Gone are the days. And I think we see it more now with COVID because we've all been affected this way.
Yes.
But gone are the days that most people have an 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, with the drop off of the kid at this time and a lunch break at this time and pick up at this time. So I don't even know that the gym makes sense anymore sometimes. Right. Like, I think about it for myself, unless, like, I have a neighbor and she's like, the studio is getting me through this because it is my one time of the day that I get to leave the house.
Yeah,
where
for sure.
I'm the opposite. And I'm like, I have no reason to leave the house. That just adds complexity to my day. I would rather go downstairs and invest all my money in building out my gym.
Yep.
And we're all going to be different, but it used to be so homogenous, right? Everyone was driving somewhere and the gym made sense. So we tried to get the perfect real estate.
And that's why the classes were busy in the morning and lunch in the evening. And that whole thing that's no longer going to be the case, right? It's gone.
Totally gone. And I think clubs and instructors can see the neat thing is people are also discovering I can do a little bit here and a little bit there. I also think the 60-minute class, not that it's gone, the people that were always doing it are always going to want it. And
right, but they're getting old.
To confirmation bias. Oh my God, I can't tell you the last time I did a 60-minute class.
I do
cannot remember the last time I pressed play for 60.
I only do it if it's yoga, and that's because yoga are the most particular about their reasons and their rules. And I'll do a 60-minute yoga class, but yeah, if there's a 60-minute class in the timetable, I find that it makes me anxious just going in because I'm like, I don't feel that I'm using this time appropriately, particularly if I'm doing strength or HIIT.
Right. And it's just and I had to come to this realization as a fitness professional that just because
someone that is going to do 60
minutes.
Someone that does do 60 will do 2 classes back to back. Like, it's the thing.
Exactly. And there are going to be people that's exactly what I was saying, because I was like pulling my words back in my mouth. That's why I try not to speak in absolutes. I don't think anything is completely dead. I think there's always going to be an audience.
I agree.
But what I do caution fitness professionals from is, this is the same thing that happened in the US with politics. Like, we have confirmation bias. We look for confirmations of what we believe because we want the past to still be true.
Yep.
We want what we did to still be relevant. We want the way that it looked to come back.
Yep.
And I just think as long as we are driving, looking in the rearview mirror, we are going to crash.
Yep.
The people that wanted 60-minute high intensity classes that were doing the choreography before you even introduced it and embellishing it, they are still there.
Yep.
But do you know what's really interesting is I find they're not actually coming back to the gym because they can find fitness anywhere. It doesn't matter. They were already the superstar of their experience. Yeah. Totally. So circling back to your point, it's like we're after, even if you are back in the gym, like you're after a different person. I was speaking to someone that said the other day, it's been really interesting in the gym because it's all new people. They're teaching group fitness to this whole new group of people. And the instructors are really struggling because they're realizing that they actually weren't really adept at addressing beginners. They could tolerate beginners.
Yeah.
They could shapeshift some of the stuff for beginners, but at the end of the day, we still were teaching for the 15 people in the front row or the 10 people in the front row. So it's a wild and crazy ride. I mean, I think Darwinism, right?
Yeah,
like the people that come out on the other side are the quality instructors that are really in this for the right reasons. And there are still going to be people that do it for ego. And that's okay. There are people that resonate with that. Like I'm tired of instructors being mad at Instagram stars. Like, don't be mad. Don't be a hater. Like, they cater to a certain group of people. They are not the people that you are trying to find. Yeah. Someone that's just going to follow an Instagram star is not your person. And that's okay. Like, again, scarcity versus abundance.
Yeah, I have a bit of sympathy for this mindset, because I will state very openly, I got into fitness because I went to my university rec center and it was a class of like 80 people and the person up the front was like loving it and everyone was loving it. And I'm like, I want to be that. And then I went into Les Mills and I just I got hooked on the idea of being the rock star at the front of this, at the top of the stage, creating this great experience. I was 20. I did there was an ego aspect to it, and that's fine. And I've grown through that, but I wouldn't want to suggest that my reasons for getting into it weren't completely pure, because they were. I loved it so much that I wanted to be in it right at the center and sharing that love with everybody else. And now I've moved into a point in my career where I'm more about bringing people along for the journey and bringing new people in. But it would be completely inconsistent for me to think that the person that I was back then wasn't bringing a lot. And I think that to think that anyone who's bringing more people into fitness is doing a good job. And instead of getting angry at them, think of how you can see what they're doing, emulate it, but for a different niche, a different audience, a different group of people that needs you.
Yes, 100%. When I do my career coaching for fitness professionals, I've always said there's 3 motivators that are behind every business or career, right? Ego, money, social contribution. Yeah. And all 3 of them are in there some way. They're just all in different orders. Yeah. And to your point, I would never suggest that someone that ego is first, money second, social contribution is any less relevant than someone that's social contribution, money and ego. It's just a different business path. And I knew I did my best work with the people that it was social contribution, money, ego last.
Yep.
But to your point, same thing. Like I joke all the time that I became an instructor because I walked into a class and I'm like, I could do better than her. And I had a tape in my bag waiting for that day that she just didn't show up. Right.
Yeah.
And there is that endorphin rush of, oh my God, they like me. And I always say, like, most fitness instructors get paid in ego strokes.
Yep.
And I mean, there's a chicken and egg conversation around that, but we get paid in ego strokes, which made COVID really hard. And I believe that is what has ushered us into this scarcity thing, because we're not getting the thing that made us feel good back. We get no feedback from teaching to a camera.
We may never get that again. Like being a fitness instructor now is going to involve a digital element. It's going to involve community building. It's only going to be a very small percentage that are going to go back to having the prime spot class at a gym. And even then, it's probably not going to have as many people in it. And so like you either have to decide that what you were in it for is no longer there and you maybe want to drop out or do something different, or you have to reformulate the things you get the feedback from. And I don't think that's a bad thing, right? It's just a development thing. We've just gone through a natural transformation, as everyone's always said. We've gone through, 5 years of transformation in one. But I think for an individual instructor, it's probably more than that. I think the industry has done technological change 5 in 1, but the difference in being an instructor has changed fundamentally. Like I don't think you can measure it in years. Now, if you're an instructor, you might be teaching to a camera. You have to understand how to do AV. You have to understand how to take payments. You have to understand what platform you're going to go on. None of this is necessarily as fun to you as standing up and being adored, or getting to the end of a class and having an endorphin rush and having people clap to you. Like that, you have to reframe.
You do. And I love that you stated, I think more people need to hear this message. And if you've decided this isn't for you, that's okay too.
Totally okay.
Right? You might have to reframe. You either have to, reframe and mold into what this thing is now, or review all of the opportunities and find the best place for you to go that match what you need out of it.
And don't feel bad about it, right?
Sheep and follow.
And
not at all, because who wants to keep doing something that doesn't feel good or right? I mean, I'd say give it the old college try. You don't know until you change your mindset. I think there are still ways to get that same feeling, but you've got to figure it out.
Well, it's distributed, right?
You can't,
Like you might, you're going to know that you've done a good job, not from the direct feedback. Okay, so let's also say that group fitness classes will come back, gyms will come back. There will be opportunities. I just think there's two things that everybody needs to accept. One is that it'll come back different, and there's probably going to be less opportunities. And the second thing is, if you want to make a career out of it, that can't be the only thing. It just can't. And so like the ego stroke or the feedback that you get, or knowing you've made a positive contribution to someone else's day, isn't necessarily going to come from their sweaty beaming face at you at the end of a workout. It might come from a Facebook post saying, thank you so much for this 2 weeks later. And so you have to know what you're trying to achieve. You have to know your why. And then you have to be a bit kind to yourself and appreciating that it might come in different ways.
Yeah. I think it can be I think this could be a major mental shift for people. So a couple things there. You said it, I want to highlight it. You got to know where to go to find the feedback and store it up so that when or if you don't get it, you have it. Like I always tell people, I have a praise folder in my email inbox. I have had it for 15 years, and anytime, no matter how small it is, screenshot it, I email it to myself, like I throw it in there so that if I do have, it's the only thing that got me through COVID when there was a dry spell of just not getting much feedback. So that's one. But the other thing you said is Brene Brown. I can't even paraphrase what the study was that she talks about in one of her books about. I think this has been really freeing for me, not having to show up to conferences and make assumptions about how people are feeling about my work. Let me give an example. Some people have that face. where they may be totally jonesing on the information you're providing, but they look like they hate you.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I'm giving a business presentation or teaching a class, and all I can do is hone in on that person. Like, I'm going to turn them. I'm going to turn them. And it almost hijacks my experience so much. I will tell you a story about this actually happening in a live class in a minute, because it's the funniest story and very pivotal in my career. But what I have loved about having to move behind a camera where the feedback is asynchronous is that I had to shift my mindset to trust that whenever I show up to do a podcast or a webinar or a live or a conference or anything, I trust that I am prepared. I trust that I prepared the best that I can, and I'm delivering the best product with the purest of intentions. And the people that were meant to hear it are hearing it and getting what they need.
Yeah.
And it has been such a more peaceful 10 months of work than ever before, because I can't play that mind game with myself where I detach from the actual experience because I'm so worried about what that one person is thinking. And I hadn't really thought about that in a long time. And I told you I'd tell a story just so you can laugh at me. I'll do the short version. I was that instructor that used to teach the 5:30 kickboxing class to a packed room of 100 people. And I will never forget, I was turned around. And, back in the day, we had our stages. 100 people in the room, turn around, do my music, and someone bangs on the stage. Turn around, like, she goes, "So you're going to bring it this week?" I'm like, huh?
It's already been,
because I was here last week. Yeah. She's like, because I was here last week and it was not a good workout. I left. I'm like, so if you can imagine, where does she place herself? It's like right in the front row. And I'm step touching, bringing the heart rate up in a smart, respectable way. She's already doing air jacks, like whatever. Long story short, I also had a client in the back. Her name was Stella. Love Stella. And she was my client, like very overweight. She was one of those that she's just smiling the whole time. And she's just happy to be there, getting a little bit better every week. And I loved her. But all I could focus on was this woman in the front row, because I'm like, I'm going to kill her. All I wanted to do was bring her to her knees. She still ended up, what happened? She still ends up leaving in the middle of class. Like, it had nothing to do with me, nothing to do with me, whether or not, right? And I turned around and I looked at Stella when she walked out of the room, and Stella was like doubled over in the back, like dying. And afterwards she pulled me aside, and I don't remember her exact words, but basically she's like, "Sweet pea, you are teaching to me, not her. And I need you. Could you remember that next time?" And I was like, oh my gosh.
And that has stayed with you forever, right? Like, cause it's that type of feedback that just sears into your soul.
Yeah. And but it'd been a long time since I always embraced that in movement type experiences, but I hadn't realized I was also doing it in my lectures,
right?
And my conference presentations that way. And that has been, I mean, the one gift I hope instructors can see is there is such a release in just trust that you're putting good out into the world, and the people that were meant to hear it will hear it.
Yeah.
And you may not ever get the direct feedback, but if you're doing your best work, people are going to receive it, and you can put your head on the pillow at night feeling really good about yourself. I don't know. It's kind of freeing. And I imagine that's what celebrities probably have to do, right? I always try to think about
100%.
How do they deal with all the negative, do you do that? I doom scroll
on
Instagram of famous people. You're like, oh my gosh, look at all these mean comments. This is so awful. But they have to develop. I'm going way off on a tangent, but I think it's a good thing about this is
I agree.
You just got to figure out how to be okay with it.
And it's it is one of the themes of this show. Like right back at the start, we talked about finding your signature strength as an instructor. I had Susan Renata, very famous Les Mills master trainer. And she talked about a character strengths survey that you can do and figure out what are the things that you like to do. And people can refer back to the show because I think it's a really useful one. We've talked about this actually in some of the other work that we've done, but it's figuring what makes you happy, what brings you joy, what's your strength, and then how to lean into that. And if other things aren't, if you have weaknesses, don't worry about like fixing your weaknesses. If it's something to do with like you're not cueing correctly, or you're not, if there are things that you're not doing that you need to do, that's different. But if humor is not a strength of yours, don't be humorous, because trying to be humorous will just fall flat. You won't connect with people, and you have to be okay with some people liking you and some people not. And that is how you become successful. It's by finding the people that like you, and you cannot find them if you're trying to cater to the people that never will.
Yeah. And I think I've shared this story with you too. Yes, strength finders is so important. And once you find who you are, do it times two. Jay Blahnik, who you and I both know, is a very dear friend of mine and a mentor. And I remember telling him about presenting at a conference, like 200 people. I was bouncing on a trampoline and one person gave me a negative review, like 1 out of 200. And you could just tell it was back in the day. It's all I could think about. So it was back in the day when you got the feedback when you walked out of the room, the handwritten comment cards.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like she had all this venom, and she wrote in all capital letters and like went over it twice and said, "Kill the cheerleader on crack routine."
I mean, to be fair, that hopefully you can look at that now and think that's quite funny.
I do. I did not find it funny at all.
I bet you did not.
Then, oh my gosh, because I was like 24 years old. I was a cheerleader in college. I don't smoke crack. Like, and I was just like, I was so offended because you're bouncing on a trampoline. What other kind of personality are you expecting?
Yeah, this is
you want me to
true.
do like yin yoga on a rebounder? But I remember I told Jay that story in a moment of weakness or wine. I don't remember. And he's like, I told him I'd saved it. I had it in my office all these years. And he said the same thing. He's like, but does it motivate you? I'm like, well, yeah, because I'm going to work harder and I'm going to try it. And he's like, no, but he is the perfect person. He's the guy behind Apple Fitness Plus and the cast of characters that he amassed. That has always been his thing. Is he had a war chest. And he's like, you play a very specific part in my war chest. And I wouldn't have you any other way.
Right.
There are going to be people that don't like you. And I know who isn't going to like you, but they're going to like this person. So that's why they're on the team. And I think if we all can remember, we are one big, gigantic fitness team. We are all on the same timetable. Right? And we are all on the same timetable. And some people hate me and my over-the-top personality. Hate me. And that's okay. I don't need you to like me because they might like you, or they might like that format, or they might like that platform, or that. As long as you're moving, it's okay. So again, we go back to this like ego, social contribution, etc. Like as long as I know I'm putting the best of myself out into the world, I'm being very authentic to me. There are going to be people that want that thing, and there are going to be people that don't, and I can be okay with that. Like this all gets so much better if we can just realize we're doing something really, really important, that it's probably the only thing in the world that everybody needs.
Right.
Everybody needs a little bit of what you've got to give. Everybody needs it. So just, double down on what you're doing. Yeah. It's been a fun 25 years of learning. And I hate to say I love what's happened in the last year, but I love what it's forcing us to do.
I love that.
I cannot
we've
like
had
COVID
to undergo so much
and
change,
love that.
Right? Like it's
so much change.
It feels that we've been stagnant for a while. I think group fitness as a concept has been stagnant, and there've been stuff that's happened around the sides. I mean, a little bit of digital boutiques have come in, they've changed the game, things like Barry's having superstar instructors. But what we do in a classroom has been a bit stagnant for a while. Like there's been concepts, but at the end of the day, we haven't had to really deal with change since sort of the advent of group fitness. So kind of, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, right? Or how long ago now? And it's exciting. I mean, it doesn't mean that it's not like really stressful and creating a lot of anxiety, but it's also exciting to be at the forefront of a new thing, a new paradigm, and able to impact change in so many people's lives.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I've always characterized it as we've been rearranging the chairs on the deck of the Titanic.
Yeah, that's so true.
Right? It's just, creating a new product, a new format, another pre-choreographed thing. We're just slightly upping the game, like that 1%. And we finally got to the boiling point where it's like, I have so appreciated there have not been any new formats in the last 10 months. So we can all really think about what formats were working, what wasn't working. And I love talking to group fitness directors now that I feel like, schedules had become these over bloated closets full of stuff that you're never going to wear again, that don't really look good together. And we just kept going, like 127 classes on the timetable, 40 instructors.
Yep.
And in this time of having to shrink down, we're getting back to our core. I mean, you're not as old as I am, but I love teaching in the 90s. You taught step. You taught high-low, maybe you taught a 3 and 3 interval class. That was it.
Yeah.
And you got really good at it where, fast forward 10 years later, I felt like I had to be in a roboho to make a living. I had to teach every format available.
Yeah.
And I always appreciated that with Les Mills. I mean, they wanted you to teach more than one, but they were very adamant about, you're not going to teach all of our formats.
Right. Yeah.
And
you can't sit in the essence of everything.
No. So fun. Yeah. I appreciate the evolution that is happening, and it's hard, and we can all be okay with the fact that it's hard. Just because it's necessary doesn't mean it's not hard. So
totally.
I'm excited for what's to come for sure.
Me too. Okay, so we've got about like a few minutes to go. What I wanted to check with you at the end and sort of ask you is, with the focus on this being the year of end, are there any kind of specific tactics that you recommend to group fitness instructors in order to take hold of the opportunity that's presented to them?
Yes, I'm going to give you two. One, I think you have to become extremely curious instead of controversial. And maybe those are the wrong dichotomy, but instead of being frustrated by the apples and by the Pelotons or by this club down the street or that studio, go get curious. Go do it.
There are free trials.
Go take a Peloton class.
You can try all of these things for free. The only thing you have to do is cancel your credit card before the 2 weeks is up, but try all the classes, steal some stuff. Yeah.
And don't go in there with the mindset of, I want to find everything that's wrong. I want you to go into it with the mindset of, tell me everything that's right.
Yeah.
Find all the good things about it that you can go, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And not because I want you to take that and put that on yourself, put that responsibility to be right. You can't be Rebecca Kennedy, Christine Derricole, and Greg Cook. Like, you can't do it.
Yeah.
But what you can do is, what else is out there, so you can start to become that Sherpa. I think that's so important. And I'd say the second thing, and there's a lot underneath this, you have to take control of your career. Life does not happen to you. You're not an innocent bystander. So you can't just, you can, but I implore you, get your head out of the sand. This isn't happening to you. It's happening to everyone. Like even playing ground for the first time in forever, it's happening to everyone. Get your head up, take control of your career. Just like we were talking about, put the customer back in the center. You need to be in the center of the fitness ecosystem. Instead of being a shapeshifter and just trying to take the opportunities that you see out there, you need to get to the center of your ecosystem and get really clear about, who do you want to serve? What can you give them? And why do you do it? And then you can evaluate opportunities through that filtration system and build your own business. Like, I've been talking a lot about, we're all in business for ourselves, whether we work for someone else or work for ourselves.
Correct.
Right? Whether you're an employee or you work for yourself, and you really need to put that hat on. And you're good at teaching fitness. You're good at exercise. Maybe you need to learn the technology side of it, whatever. I know you do a great job with that. Lots of people out there doing good work on the technology side, but I would really encourage you to start thinking about the business side and not let that scare you, not let the term business turn you off of it, because all business really is getting clear about your who, what, and why. And then building a system to continue to do those three things and share those three things over and over. Right. So those would be my two things.
And on that last one, I think that's a really, really good point to end on, because I think that we get very stressed and put a lot of focus on the how. Like, how do I do it? What platform do I use? What camera do I use? And often at the expense of going back and thinking about the who, the what, and the why. And we on this podcast talk about the how a lot, because the how is important, right? But the how,
totally.
Like, how has to come. I mean, the difficulty is, if you're a group fitness instructor and you've been doing it for a while, then it's all about the how, because like lockdown happened and you couldn't teach classes and all that sort of stuff. But your how had become a factor of the same thing that you've been doing year in, year out. And so the how related to the old paradigm. And if you haven't sat down and thought about the who, the what, and the why, and then how it's going to affect the way you teach, the way you deliver, the way you motivate people in the new world of fitness, then it's going to be difficult for you to really understand the how, because that comes later.
Yeah, because you're trying to nail Jello to a wall. Like you're just trying a lot of different things. And that's the system that I've taught for 10 years, that you have to rebuild your foundation. then you have to figure out all of the ways that you can extend the opportunity to build trust and credibility with you, so people can find the offering that you have that is proportionate to the amount of trust they have in you. Then you don't have to sell anyone, and you won't be spending so much time thinking about the marketing tactics, because then all you're doing is promoting what you're doing, and it becomes this self-fulfilling cycle, and you're living in this state of flow because it feels really good, because you're doing it for the people that you resonate with and doing what you want to be doing, and you're very clear in your why, so it doesn't feel like work anymore. And
that's the moral of the
I'm
story,
really excited
right?
about and I'm excited about
Sorry, I keep jumping in, but only because I'm so excited by all the stuff you're saying.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah, I'm just excited to be back teaching that stuff this year, because I've been doing that for companies for so long, but I think this year's the rise of the independent. And I always put an asterisk after that, because I don't mean that, I still mean it with an and mindset. The rise of the independent, through the lens of whether you work for yourself or someone else, it's about you being in control and being very clear about why you're doing what you're doing and who you want to serve, like I said, and learning that cooperation and collaboration is really important. But I'm excited to get back to teaching the independent how to do these things for themselves and make sure it aligns with the companies or the opportunities that they're working towards or for.
100%. So if people have been really engaged in what you've had to say and want to hear more from you, where can they go to find you?
Yeah, my website's the best place, shannonfable.com. And there's a section called Connect where I let you know where I am, what I'm doing. And as we start to get these, starting to do some boot camps and some other group coaching with independence this year, that'll all be on that link.
Perfect. Well, we'll put a link to that in the show notes. Shannon Fable, thank you so much. Year of End.
Thank you.
Let's get to it.
Yes. Yeah, thank you.